Sophie Cunningham was flat out targeted by a dirty player. Can continue to survive these things. Here you see Sophie Cunningham laid out on the floor, holding her knee. The lady was in tears, crying as Lexi Hull approached her to help her.
Immediately, first, look at this. Instantly into the game. Instantly. Immediately. They had a target to hurt Sophie. She was targeted by this team.
This wasn't just a random collision on the court. It was something far more serious. Sophie Cunningham's season came to a devastating end after a hit delivered by a player known for a long track record of aggressive, questionable behavior. And the context makes it even worse. The game was already decided, with one team comfortably ahead by 17 points. The contact was so violent, so unnecessary, that it instantly raised red flags, not just among fans, but within Cunningham's own family. They didn't stay silent. Instead, they took their frustration straight to social media, calling out what they say is a pattern of negligence by the WNBA, a league that, in their eyes, continues to fail when it comes to protecting its top talent. This isn't just about one injury. It's about a broader issue, the lack of accountability, the silence from the league, and what feels like an open door for reckless behavior. At the heart of it all is a bigger, more troubling question: is enough being done to ensure the safety and respect of athletes in women's basketball?
Shout for Bria Hartley because she's a dirty-ass player.
This is Hartley right here coming in.
Slide over right there. And Hartley just kind of falls
and she
crushes
in on the knee of Sophie right here.
She went down.
Just sums up everything. Like, we weren't going to win this game if Sophie Cunningham was healthy. This isn't like, oh, we lost because of Sophie Cunningham injury. We were down 17 points when she got injured. This happened.
The moment itself was difficult to witness. The Indiana Fever were already trailing badly, being dominated by the Connecticut Sun in what had become a lopsided game. Then came the drive, Bria Hartley pushing aggressively toward the rim. But instead of making a standard play at the basket, she barreled directly into Sophie Cunningham's leg with full force. The impact was immediate, and it was ugly. Sophie crumpled to the floor, her hands instinctively clutching her knee in agony. You didn't need a medical degree to know something was seriously wrong. This wasn't the kind of reaction you see with a rolled ankle or a minor strain. It was the unmistakable look of a season-ending injury. Replay footage left no doubt. Analysts and former players watching live called it out instantly. This looked like a patella rupture, one of the worst injuries in basketball. Recovery from it is slow, intense, and nearly impossible to complete in time to return during the same season. Just like that, the Fever lost not only a starter, but their emotional core, the one player bringing edge, energy, and grit to an otherwise struggling team. Cunningham's season wasn't just interrupted. It was cut short in the blink of an eye.
It looked like Stephanie White is extremely emotional after this hard-fought game. Sophie Cunningham family is extremely pissed off.
Sophie's sister Lindsay and her mom Paula. At WNBA, maybe you should focus less on fining players for commenting on your poor officiating and more about hiring officials that are able to call a consistent game, protect your athletes.
As medical staff rushed onto the court to tend to Sophie Cunningham, it quickly became clear that the pain wasn't just physical. What followed was a tidal wave of anger, not just from fans, but from Sophie's own family. And that fury exploded online in real time. Within minutes, the Cunningham family made their voices heard, and they didn't hold back. Her sister, Lindsay, took aim directly at the WNBA in a scathing public statement. In a sharply worded post, she questioned the league's priorities, suggesting they spend less time punishing players for speaking their minds, and more time ensuring that referees are doing their jobs, specifically, protecting the athletes they're paid to oversee. It was a pointed, no-nonsense call-out aimed straight at league leadership. Sophie's mother, Paula, didn't mince words either. She zeroed in on Bria Hartley herself, describing her as a reckless, disgruntled player with a trail of issues that follow her from team to team. According to Paula, Hartley plays with no control, and this time, it cost someone else everything. When a player's family becomes this publicly outspoken, it's a clear signal that something deeper is going on. This wasn't just about defending Sophie, it was a direct challenge to a league culture that, in their view, has allowed dangerous behavior to go unchecked. They weren't starting a fight. They were sounding the alarm on a crisis the WNBA has seemingly refused to confront.
It's emotional, guys. I'm hella mad. Hartley needs to be suspended on a major level. Completely, probably. At this point, she's more dirtier than DJ Carrington.
And Sophie's mother, Paula. Hartley is a disgruntled player having trouble everywhere she goes. She's playing mean and plays out of control.
There's a reason the Cunningham family didn't hesitate to point fingers, and that reason is Bria Hartley. This isn't just about one hard foul or an isolated bad decision. Hartley has quickly earned a reputation as one of the most controversial and feared figures in the WNBA, not for her scoring or leadership, but for a string of increasingly dangerous on-court incidents. What happened to Sophie Cunningham wasn't some rare lapse in judgment. It was the latest chapter in what many now see as a disturbing trend. Earlier this same season, Hartley sparked outrage when she violently yanked Angel Reese out of midair by her ponytail, a move that looked more at home in a wrestling ring than on a professional basketball court. And that wasn't even the worst of it. Just days before the Cunningham hit, Hartley was at the center of another ugly moment, pulling Becca Allen down by the head and slamming her to the hardwood. These aren't examples of hard-nosed defense. These are calculated acts that risk real, lasting injury. In a league filled with fierce competitors and physical play, there's a line, and according to a growing number of fans, players, and analysts, Bria Hartley has crossed it again and again. Her behavior is no longer being seen as aggressive play. It's starting to resemble a pattern of targeted violence. And when you look at Sophie's injury through that lens, it stops feeling like bad luck and starts to look like a predictable outcome waiting to happen.
Wanted to hurt Sophie. They made it their business to hurt Sophie, and that's exactly what they did, was hurt Sophie, and I'm hella mad.
It's a patella injury. Normally people will hold higher in their knee if it's a knee ligament injury. It looks like she might have either broke or either ruptured her patella.
This wasn't just an unfortunate moment, it became the moment that defined the Indiana Fever season, and not in a good way. What's happening in Indiana isn't just being labeled a tough stretch or a rebuilding year. Commentators are describing it as a full-blown disaster, a season so bleak, some have compared it to a horror film playing out in slow motion. Even before Sophie Cunningham went down, the team was unraveling on the court. They were getting steamrolled in a blowout, once again exposing the deep, structural issues that have plagued the franchise all year. The chemistry isn't there. The defense is porous. And morale? Practically non-existent. That's what makes Sophie's injury feel so catastrophic. She wasn't just another name on the roster. She was the defensive heart of the team, their emotional engine. When tempers flared or tension built, she was the one stepping up, rallying her teammates, and setting the tone. Most notably, she had consistently been the one to go to bat for Caitlin Clark, standing her ground when no one else did. In a locker room struggling to find leadership, Sophie was the backbone. And now, that backbone has been broken, both literally and symbolically. The team is left to pick up the pieces without its strongest voice, and the outlook, already bleak, just got much worse.
Sophie did not deserve any of that happened to her today, and it is very, very unfortunate, man.
Sophie Cunningham out for the year. How can this team continue to survive? We bring in Eric McDonald because of injuries, and who would have thought? Caitlin Clark would be out most of the year. Sophie Cunningham will have a season-ending injury.
As one of Indiana's toughest and most vocal leaders was helped off the floor in visible pain, there was one glaring absence. Their biggest name, Caitlin Clark, was nowhere in sight. And that absence speaks volumes. Clark, once hailed as the WNBA's next great hope and the face of a new era, has been sidelined with her own injury, and her time off the court now stretches across more than 75% of the season. What began as a "when will she be back" narrative has shifted into something far more uncertain. Why would she come back to this? From the sidelines, she's watching a franchise in free fall. Teammates are being physically taken out of games. The officiating remains inconsistent at best, outright negligent at worst. And the organization around her continues to spiral, seemingly without direction or urgency. For a rookie carrying the weight of record-breaking expectations, it's no longer just about health, it's about long-term safety, legacy, and whether this environment is even worth returning to. Right now, Clark isn't a leader on the court. She's a spectator to chaos. The league's most marketed rookie, its brightest media star, has become a bystander to a team unraveling in real time. The spotlight is still on her. But instead of leading a revolution, she's watching a collapse.
I told you guys this girl was a dirty player. And that's all she did today, was show how dirty she is. This is unfortunate. I don't know how the Indiana Fever...
At the heart of all this chaos lies one undeniable truth. The ultimate responsibility doesn't fall solely on Bria Hartley. It falls squarely on the WNBA itself. The league's failure to protect its top-tier talent has become impossible to ignore. After Sophie Cunningham's devastating injury, fans didn't just express outrage at the player involved, they turned their frustration toward a system that allowed this kind of recklessness to thrive in the first place. The questions are getting louder. Where are the suspensions for players with repeat offenses? Why are officials not being held accountable when they miss obvious, dangerous fouls? These aren't isolated errors, they're signs of a deeper, systemic issue that the league has seemingly refused to address. In fact, the situation has become so dire that some fans are now publicly calling for a civil rights investigation into the WNBA's officiating. That's not hyperbole, it's a serious claim suggesting bias, unequal enforcement of rules, and an overall failure to maintain a fair and safe competitive environment. When your audience, the lifeblood of any professional league, starts demanding oversight at a federal level, it's no longer just about missed calls. It's about trust that has been broken. What we're witnessing isn't just poor officiating or a string of bad games. It's a full-blown credibility crisis. The league's integrity, its player safety protocols, and its commitment to fairness are all being called into question. If the WNBA doesn't act, and act decisively, it risks losing not just its stars, but the faith of the fans who built it.
He is a dirty player. She pulled Angel Reese out of air by her ponytail. Angel Reese is ready to fight. Just last game, I think 2 days ago.
Reality, because she is somebody's daughter, she is somebody's sister, and this is just unfortunate. And those of you who don't think a civil rights investigation need to be brought upon this league is tripping. This civil rights investigation.
But it gets even darker.
But the story takes an even darker turn, one that feels almost too cruel to be real. This wasn't Sophie Cunningham's first major injury of the season. In a deeply unsettling twist, it was her second. And both devastating injuries happened against the very same team, the Connecticut Sun. At a certain point, you have to stop calling it coincidence and start asking tougher questions. Once is misfortune. Twice, under nearly identical circumstances and against the same opponent, begins to look suspicious, or at the very least, deeply troubling. Is Sophie being singled out when she faces Connecticut? Has some kind of unspoken grudge taken root? Or, more broadly, has Indiana become so plagued by dysfunction and bad fortune that they're being swallowed whole by it, like the basketball gods themselves have turned their backs on the franchise? Whatever the cause, it's pushed the boundaries of what we typically chalk up to bad luck. Fans have noticed. And they're not just upset, they're demanding answers. Some are pointing to a pattern of dangerous play, while others are questioning whether the league is even watching closely enough. When injuries start repeating themselves in such eerily specific ways, it's no longer just part of the game. It becomes a red flag, one the WNBA can no longer afford to ignore.
I don't know if it's her knee. I don't know if it's her Achilles. The way she was kind of dragging her foot. I don't know. But Bria Hartley has had dirty plays all season. But you got to know who we're talking about.
Lexi Hall hit a big three that was the dagger at the end. Aaliyah Boston, 7 of 13, 14 points, 13 boards, a double-double there, added 5.
When a league fails its players this profoundly, the backlash doesn't stay confined to angry tweets and viral clips. It starts creeping towards something far more serious, the courtroom. Behind the scenes, there's growing talk that Sophie Cunningham and her family may be weighing legal options. And if they do, they won't be the first to bring the WNBA into the legal spotlight this season. In fact, Caitlin Clark's name has already been attached to legal controversy, setting a precedent the league can't afford to ignore. Now, with a second high-profile player potentially preparing to take action, the WNBA finds itself teetering on the edge of a full-blown legal crisis. For Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, this is no longer just a public relations nightmare. It's a ticking time bomb, one that could explode into lawsuits, court filings, and a discovery process that would peel back the curtain on everything the league has tried to keep behind closed doors. Player safety protocols, officiating failures, disciplinary inaction, all of it could become subject to legal scrutiny and public record. And that's the real threat. Not just reputational damage, but actual accountability, in courtrooms, under oath, with evidence and depositions. If these legal challenges move forward, the WNBA won't just be answering to fans. It will be answering to judges, attorneys, and possibly juries. The league is no longer just on the defensive, it may soon be on trial. Literally.
Do you think the refs called any fouls? No, they didn't. These refs are clowns. These referees are clowns.
At the end of the day, everything boils down to one pressing question. What exactly is the WNBA selling to its fans these days? The answer is becoming increasingly unclear, and for many, downright troubling. Supporters and critics alike are openly accusing the league of letting rugby tackles and UFC-style hits become the new norm on the hardwood. We're seeing players mugged well away from the basket, blindsided with blows to the head that go uncalled, and thrown to the floor in moments that feel more like brawls than basketball plays. And this isn't limited to just one or two teams. Across the entire league, some of the biggest stars are sidelined with injuries caused by this unchecked, brutal physicality. It appears the WNBA has gotten caught in a dangerous trap. In its push to market a harder, tougher image, it seems to have lost control over player safety. The result? The very careers and health of its most valuable players are being sacrificed on the altar of gritty entertainment. This isn't professional basketball anymore. It's becoming a war of attrition, a relentless battle where the prize is survival, not victory.
In the beginning of this game, Sophie Cunningham is bringing the ball up the floor. She gets mugged, hit upside the head, knocked to the floor while dribbling the ball up the floor 75 feet away from the rim.
If you think anyone else on the team stepped up to fill Sophie Cunningham's absence, think again. The final box score tells a story that's easy to misread, but once you look closer, it reveals a team struggling for direction. Yes, Kelsey Mitchell lit up the scoreboard with 34 points, but it was a desperate, solo effort that laid bare the lack of any real offensive game plan. Aaliyah Boston posted a solid double-double, but her stats felt hollow in a performance where the team seemed completely adrift. Even Lexi Hall, who nailed a crucial three-pointer late in the game, was practically invisible for the vast majority of her time on the court. This is the problem with the Fever right now. They have talented pieces, sure, but they're missing the essential elements of a true team: heart, cohesion, and identity. All the qualities Sophie Cunningham embodied every time she stepped on the floor. Her injury didn't just cost the Fever a key player. It exposed the uncomfortable truth: this roster isn't a team. It's just a collection of individual numbers, lacking the unity needed to compete at a high level.
Engelbert, wake the hell up. Half of your league is hurt now. Who would have thought? How do the Indiana Fever? Bria Hartley, you are a dirty, low-down dog of a player, you.
Make no mistake, this isn't just a problem confined to the Indiana Fever. It's a league-wide crisis, an epidemic that's sweeping through the entire WNBA. Week after week, another star player lands on the injury report, sidelined by injuries that feel all too preventable. This season has morphed into something resembling a war zone, with the league's top talent dropping out left and right. The WNBA is hemorrhaging its most marketable, game-changing players at an alarming pace, and it's no coincidence. This surge of injuries is a direct consequence of a dangerously physical on-court atmosphere that referees have allowed to spiral out of control. This isn't a case of bad luck or unfortunate timing. It's a deep, systemic failure at the very core of the league. The foundation that was supposed to protect players, enforce fairness, and uphold safety is cracking under pressure. And while these stars sit on the sidelines, sidelined not by fate but by a culture that favors aggression over protection, the league risks losing not only its talent but the trust of its fans and players alike. Clip 13.
Injuries all over the league because you are allowing people to play rugby and football and do UFC moves in the middle of a basketball game.
The timing of this crisis couldn't be worse for the WNBA. The league is riding a historic wave of popularity, largely driven by the so-called Caitlin Clark effect. Millions of new fans have tuned in, eager to witness extraordinary talent and unforgettable moments. But what are these newcomers actually seeing? Instead of thrilling displays of skill and athleticism, they're being served weekly highlight reels filled with brutal takedowns and season-ending injuries. What should have been a golden opportunity to capture and grow a passionate new audience is rapidly turning into a cautionary tale of mismanagement and neglect. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert holds the keys to a potential gold mine, but her failure to act decisively threatens to burn it all down before it can truly flourish. The league's future, and its reputation, are on the line. And here lies the ultimate, bitter irony. Despite all the chaos, the outrage, and the heartbreaking injury to Sophie Cunningham, the Indiana Fever technically won the game. A 99-93 overtime victory that, on paper, looks like a triumph but, in reality, feels more like a somber funeral. They earned the points, yes, but they lost their enforcer, their emotional leader, and any real hope of turning around a season that spiraled into disaster. Sophie Cunningham's season is over. A player with a troubling history walks away unpunished. The Fever are in ruins, and the WNBA stands at the edge of a historic crisis of confidence. With the league in turmoil and its stars being taken down one by one, the final question hanging over it all is this: should Caitlin Clark even consider risking her career by stepping back onto a court where neither her team nor the league can guarantee her safety?